into worship with the words of Sophia Lyon-Fawes. We gather in reverence before the great wonder of life, the wonder of this moment, and the wonder of being together so close yet so far apart, each hidden in our own secret chamber, each listening, trying to speak, yet none fully understanding, none fully understood. We gather in reverence before all intangible things, eyes that see not, nor ears that can detect, hands that can never touch, that space cannot hold, and time cannot measure. Come, let us worship together. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit for to join our voices in our opening hymn. We celebrate the web of life, number 175 in your great hymnal.
Please remain standing as J.L. Hurley lights our chalice with words of inspiration from Amy Zucker Morgenstern. Within the heart of the flower, the fountain of beauty. Within the heart of the community, a fire that warms and dances. Within the heart of each of us, a spark of the spirit of life. Holy, holy, holy.
I invite all of you to gather round as we hear a special tale called Ramadan, written by Hannah Elliott, illustrated by Rashid. In the 9th month of the year, when the crescent moon first appears in the sky, it's time to celebrate Ramadan. Ramadan lasts one whole month. It is a time to reflect on ourselves, to be thankful, and to help others. During this special month, we eat and drink only when it is dark outside. Before the sun peeks out each day, we have a big meal called suhoor. We fill our bellies with foods that will give us energy all day. We fast because we know that there are many people who are less fortunate than us. We appreciate how lucky we are. During Ramadan, mothers and fathers still go to work, and children still play, go to school, and see friends. But throughout the whole month, we think about what is most important to us. We spend time with family. We pray. We lend a helping hand and try to do other good deeds. When the new crescent moon finally appears in the sky, it marks the end of Ramadan. We celebrate with a big feast called the Eid Fitr, which is also called the Sweet Festival. Ramadan may be over, but we will remember what it taught us. We will remember to love our family, pray, and give back to others all throughout the year. Thanks for listening. Okay. And now invite Dan forward, chair of our stewardship committee.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Let's see. So, a couple announcements for the stewardship campaign. After the service today at 12:30, we're having one of our canvas meetings at the new church office. And is Maureen here? Maureen, do we have directions on how to get there? So that's going to be pretty helpful. I think anyone can probably get there if you know the address, but then you have to know where to park, and it gets a little complicated. So Maureen has directions that people can get if you're going. So that's after the service, 12:30. And the only other thing I wanted to mention that we have 25% of our pledges in, so that's wonderful. Thank you to everyone who have pledged so far. And we've received $1,500 of that are qualified for the match fund. So we have $1,500 matching our $10,300 that has been in the match fund. So that's 14% of the match fund has been matched. And another way to look at it is 75% of the pledges will hopefully cover the remaining 86% of the match fund. So we have $8,800 left to match. So we just wanted to put that out there. But thank you, everyone. And I think I might attend the meeting after too. So hopefully I'll see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you all for your very generous donations. At this point, I invite forward Julia, who's going to offer us the testimonial.
Good morning. I'm up here because I've been coming to Channing Memorial Church for a year, and I was asked to speak on the following questions. Why did I come to Channing Memorial Church? What do I get out of church? Why do I stay? Well, I grew up as a Unitarian Universalist. My father is Jewish, and my mother was an Episcopalian when they met. When they started a family, they looked for a faith or a philosophy in which they both could bring up their daughters in a spiritual tradition that would respect different ways of interpreting the world, that would convey that there is no one way of looking at reality or of interpreting the universe. My sister and I could come to look at many different points of view, and we could make up our minds individually for ourselves. After I graduated high school, my life got busier, and I moved around the world a bit. I ended up teaching full-time for many years in another county in Maryland. I was commuting and working long hours, and there wasn't much time for me to build a spiritual nest, so to speak. But eventually, I retired, and then there was time, and I came upon Channing Memorial Church, which, quote, put compassion into action, unquote, and made me and my husband feel welcome. I stayed because you invited me through different formats to, quote, connect my soul in mystery and wonder, unquote, with others in the church and with the world. I keep coming back because the congregation here is a group of people with different backgrounds, with different beliefs, but with a strong shared value of respecting and supporting each other's spiritual ideas. I like the words that I hear in this place during and after the sermon. They ring in my ears long after I get in my car and go home. I feel that Channing Memorial Church is the branch on which to build my spiritual nest. It has become the place of my spiritual home.
Thank you so much, Julia. That touched my heart. Thank you. Okay. Please remain seated for our prayer hymn, Find a Stillness, number 352 in the Gray Hymnal. In the silence that follows the spoken prayer, you are invited to come forward and light a candle for any joys or concerns you hold in your heart this morning. Spirit of love and life, source of all that is. May we center in this sacred and holy space, knowing that whatever we are carrying with us, we are good and whole and worthy. In our sorrows, we are held always by those within these consecrated walls. Together, may we pause in appreciation of love, in wonder of pervasive beauty, in awe of shared faith, in reverence of a great, expansive, unknowable mystery, and in humble appreciation of the still, small voice within. May we pause to seek out moments of divinity and sacred connection. May we pause in acts of devotion in each of our days to create each of us a deliberate faith, an intentional faith, a nearness to the sacred, to all things holy. And may we know that we too are holy and divine, inherently good and loving and beautiful in our own way. In this sacred moment, may we connect to the spark of the divine held within, and to you, great source of all that is. May we be led to cultivate in each day a greater faith, a stronger love, a deeper compassion. May it be so, and amen. I now light a final candle for all else that remains in our hearts and on our minds this morning. If your heart is hurting, know that your community is here to help, as am I. Please reach out with any needs.
In the words of Arthur Foote II, freely have we received of gifts that minister to our needs of body and spirit. Gladly, we bring to our church and its wide concerns a portion of this bounty. For those of you watching the service online, you may contribute to a virtual offering plate using the donate button on our website or by mailing a check to the church office. Will the ushers please come forward? And now we'll hear from Cindy Williams about this month's special giving opportunity.
Good morning. Our second Sunday collection today is to help fight food insecurity and feed our hungry neighbors, particularly in Columbia. Outside of the Owen Brown Interfaith Center, there are 2 pantry boxes that have been there for quite some time, like quite a few years. They're filled regularly with food, some of it donated by local grocery stores, and a lot of it is supported by generous donations. The program is mostly managed by members of the Unitarian Universalist Church in Columbia and others. Other people stop by, other nonprofits will give us food. The non-perishable box is filled once a day, and it costs about $400 a week to support the program. And I know because I order the food. So there are no questions asked. Anyone can take food. There is a senior citizen subsidized housing behind that building. We've met some of the people there. We've seen young people. We've seen homeless people who are taking food. The collection today will go towards purchasing food. All of the money that we collect for the food insecurity program goes to purchase food. Appreciate your support. Also on the UUCC website, if you wanted to set up like a regular reoccurring donation, which is what I do because then I don't have to think about it again, you can do that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. And if you'll be making a donation by check, please make your check out to Channing Memorial Church. Will the ushers please come forward? for all that you give and all that you do for our church community and its wider concerns. We give thanks. This reading is titled Return and Remember, and it's by Summer El-Bayati. Ramadan is a time of going deeper into a spiritual oasis, like entering a cave for a few hours while I fast from bodily nourishment. It's an invitation to pause for a whole month while I find spiritual awakening by studying the Quran more deeply and performing embodiment prayers 5 times a day. It becomes a holy retreat from the mundane, even in the midst of the ordinary. For 30 days, I fulfill my spiritual needs as if in great hunger for the divine spirit, and hopefully I emerge from the cave transformed. This holy experience is the healing. This sacred time is an abundant act of love. And this is what I seek each year during this most blessed of months, so I can answer the call of the divine spirit. What if I were to find spiritual nourishment by entering whatever doors opened up to the divine spirit on a daily basis? What if each day I awakened and began it in theological reflection, or praising the name of the divine each morning and evening? Who would I become? The second reading is titled The Nourishment of Ramadan Isn't About Pushing Food Away, and it's by Raheem Snow. Fasting from food, to be sure, is prescribed by the Quran and the Prophet. It cleanses the body, it teaches self-control, and it represents a sacrifice made for the sake of God. That is why so many Muslims take such great care to observe the fast from sunrise to sunset. May God bless them for observing this practice. But what is the principle behind the practice? In my reading of the Quran and the teachings of the Prophet, the main principle behind fasting is to learn that God's blessings are the true source of nourishment for our hearts and minds and bodies. We can look for nourishment in food and addictive substances. We can look for nourishment in getting attention and approval from other people. We can look for nourishment in money and career achievements. We can look for nourishment even in controlling and manipulating others. But nothing can actually nourish our hearts and minds except the presence, the grace, and the mercy of God in our lives. When we Muslims say the core principle of our faith, there is no God but God, one way to read this is, there is no nourishment except God's nourishment. I invite you to rise in body or spirit to join our voices in hymn number 194, Faith is a Forest. Stephen will guide us through the first verse.
We have sung this before, but we sing it so rarely that I think let's sing it together for the first verse. I'll just play the vocal line, and then we'll do it for real. So it goes. Faith is a forest in which clouds play and run. Inside can hear the still voice deep inside. Web of life, faith is when I breathe. Strength and commitment to all I believe. Vision be my guide as I programming to sing Western chord phrases. This is from a very different musical tradition, but we're going to do this together and it's going to be lovely, I promise. All right, here we go. 2, ready.
From time to time, we may have those profound moments of a sacred connection with all we hold holy. The holy. Stardust, the awe of nature, a transcendent entity, or the goddess that birthed us of her sacred womb. For me, the holy is an entity that makes itself known through the beauty and wonder of nature, an intimate, mysterious piece of all that is. And so, I break away from the mundane and monotonous world to hike and immerse myself in nature. I invite my God into my life in open and awe-filled spiritual practices, meditating on a tree, the setting sun. These moments, always sacred, but not always profound. And yet, I remember a hike not too long ago when I felt the sacred presence in a powerful way all around my very being. I knew that the holy was in the trees, the grasses, the flowing stream. I felt myself intimately connected to the great, wonderful, wildly unknowable mystery that I call God. This sacred moment lasted but maybe 5 minutes, and yet I carry this experience with me in each of my days. All that is sacred, held in the wind, the grass, the clouds above me. Why do I offer this reflection? Because of the hallowed time of year Muslims are about to enter. The month of Ramadan honors the time during which the Prophet Muhammad began to receive the messages that would become the Quran. It is held as the most sacred month in Islam. For sunrise to sunset, those of this faith follow a strict fast, abstaining from even the most basic necessity, water. This restraint becomes an act of worship, connecting to a bodily hunger that matches the struggles and hardships of the marginalized, serving as a catalyst for justice work. It also, and this is what we will focus on today, offers a way to cultivate a nearness to God, just as I did on my hike. This is a sacred time of an intentional, heightened focus of devotion. Pause and unique prayers only offered during this holy month. Reading sacred texts, connecting the word to the words of the divine. And letting go of food, one makes space for God. The ultimate goal of this intentional period of restraint and connection. Taqwa, translated as God consciousness, introducing a state of mind that cultivates a constant awareness of all that is holy in each moment of one's life. God consciousness. To expand upon this idea in our own faith language, no matter what we do, wherever we are, what state we are in, God, stardust, great mystery, goddess, is always with us. I use the word God because that is one of the sacred words of Muslims. May you interpret with your own word for the holy. Ramadan is a time of intimate connection with all that is holy, God consciousness. Let us work to interpret this language and theology into our own faith tradition, for we have an unlimited source of metaphors for the great mystery. We may connect with God, sometimes understood as a loving entity of which we are one prayer, one deep breath away from. Or we connect with stardust, knowing that each atom in our bodies has been an intimate piece of everything that has ever been. Or we connect with mystery and wonder, carrying within us the awe of the plummeting ocean with life still undiscovered, the vast expanse of a barren desert. Each of these, divine, holy, and sacred. So, what happens when these divine interpretations enter our daily consciousness? What happens when we consistently foster these intimate connections? We realize we are parts of a vast expanse, something far greater than our individual selves. We fully immerse ourselves in the mystery, wonder, and awe that is all around us. With this consciousness and this connection, we can be reminded of this divinity, this God or stardust or mystery, this divinity present in each of our days as we settle into a mindset of cultivated awareness for every blessed moment. We garner gratitude for all that is, the great improbability of life, of this earth, of the universe. Divinity is always among us. Our very lives are sacred, our days are holy. Life is far from perfect, yet faith offers comfort, strength, and perseverance. Each minute becomes one of meaning, each life a wonder and a blessing, each laugh a communion with beauty, heart, and soul, and likewise each sorrow becomes a piece of collective mourning, of which we have each experienced but a piece. We not only gain, but we likewise relinquish that which interferes with sacred connection, hate, anger, and fear. This becomes parts of the past. Each moment we are guided to respond to the world and each individual in our midst with love, compassion, and care. We are called towards lives of justice. I invite us into a moment of gratitude, reverence, awe, and wonder. May we carry this into each of our days. Let us step back for a moment to explore how we cultivate these sacred connections, how we cultivate God consciousness. What does Ramadan teach us? It is a retreat from the mundane and the ordinary, separating from daily life and inviting the sacred into this new space. It is an invitation towards a holy pause to welcome a spiritual awakening. I see this as an act of profound intention and a deliberate separation from the routine. In Ramadan, it is a resolution to enter a month of fasting and increase practices of devotion, reading sacred texts, pausing in prayer only offered during this sacred time. No longer chasing food and drink, one opens a space for something new and holy to emerge. One will separate from the profane and center in acts of profound and intentional devotion. Deep, sincere faith does not simply happen. It cannot be taken for granted. It must be cultivated. How can each of us take time away from the mundane, the ordinary, to foster inner growth and a flourishing faith? For me, it is a week in nature. For others, it may be a period of extended meditation or multiple daily prayers, a moment under the stars and the moonlight. It is the time for a heightened commitment to worship, calling us to pray, to meditate, to immerse ourselves in awe and wonder. It is deliberate. It is intentional. It is sacred. It is transformational. It is moments like this where we may encounter those profound, intimate connections with the holy, just as I did on my hike. Let us invite the sacred into our midst, to be carried with us into each subsequent day. What more do we gain from lives of God consciousness? It is an ability to invite and cultivate spiritual nourishment. Author and teacher Raheem Snow offers the main principle behind fasting is to learn that God's blessings are the true source of nourishment for our hearts and minds and bodies. God, the sacred, the divine, the holy, this is what nourishes us in a way food could never do. A foundational phrase in Islam is, there is no God but God. One way to interpret this is, there is no nourishment except God's nourishment. I think of this in our Unitarian Universalist faith. It's not the spinach that enriches our immune system, but the wind that touches us in each of our days, whispering, you are not alone. It is not the milk that strengthens the bones, but the stars above that offer, you are but a small piece of a great, expansive mystery. It is not the eggs that feed the muscles, but the cycles of nature that invite us to reflect. We are connected to all that is, was, and ever will be. It is not the spinach, the milk, the eggs. It is the companionship, the invitation to mystery, the connection to all that is. This is our nourishment. Snow offers, Ramadan is less about saying no to food and more about saying yes to God, that which truly nourishes us. Compassion, kindness, love, friendship, spirituality, faith, awe, wonder. It is a time to strengthen the bonds of the sacred, to say yes to what the holy asks of us. Snow offers, when we say yes to the sacred that he calls God, we think more about God, the sacred, the holy. It becomes a greater part of daily living as we listen in affirmation and to sacred murmurings. Yes, I am with you. Saying yes is listening to what God is calling for of us in our daily lives. And what does this mean? To me, it is listening and responding in affirmation to the divine trying to encourage us. A divine encouragement to act always in love, service, and compassion. A divine encouragement to make each decision one that cultivates the next best way forward with as much goodness as can be summoned. Encouragement need not be from an entity. Encouragement can be elicited from flowers, as natural beauty draws us to our best lives, lives of goodness, faith, and compassion. Living lives of love and wonder and goodness is saying yes to God, to the great mystery, to awe and beauty. In this practice of strengthening bonds, we are called to reflect upon our relationship with all things holy. Ramadan asks this of Muslims. Is my faith as healthy as it could be? Is my faith and my connection to the sacred deepening? What can I do to deepen and strengthen this connection? This is something to be conscious of and silently reflected upon, for no two answers will be the same. The first two questions are contemplative introductions to the third. What can I do to deepen and strengthen my connection to the sacred? How can we strengthen the connection between the finite and the infinite? The spark within to the great unknowable mystery. And while the connection is profound, the action need not be. It is the intention that matters. Perhaps a walk in the woods with special attentiveness to the natural surroundings. Perhaps a connection to the innumerable twinkling stars each evening. A silent pause connecting to the breath. A prayer offered from the heart to an entity, an essence, a mystery. These acts serve to nourish each of our individual relationships with all that is sacred, holy, and divine. And I return here to our previous reflection, God consciousness. We are called to invite the calm, the introspection, the peace, the connection, the holiness of these acts into every moment of our waking lives. That is the faith we are working to cultivate. What is the sacred calling us to become? How do we respond to this call? To Unitarian Universalist Muslim Summer al-Bayadi, this question runs parallel to another goal of Ramadan, a reminder to return to one's true self. The divine call is one that begs of us to return to our true selves. Who are we inherently? I believe our core is the very first principle of our faith. We have inherent worthiness, inherent dignity. I believe we also hold within so much love, so much compassion, so much curiosity, awe, and wonder. It is the challenges of life that correspond to a growing hate, anger, and fear, the detriment of humankind. No, it is love we each carry within. So, what is the divine calling us to become? Ourselves. Beings of love, compassion, empathy, wisdom, and strength. That is our divine calling to return to who we truly are. With God consciousness, we may answer the call of the divine spirit in each of our days, reminder of self and meaning and purpose and faith. May we engage with the divine spirit in hopes of being transformed, stripped of facades, returning to what is inherent, called back to love. Al-Bayadi offers, Ramadan is a chance of transformation. So may we be we. Which brings us to our final question. How are we transformed by the acts and lessons of Ramadan? First, it's not the reflection we have been returning to throughout. We are drawn away from the monotony we can so easily settle into. Instead guided towards a profound faith and spiritual connection through purposeful acts of faith. We are invited into a heightened sense of the divine through intentional practices of restraint and devotion. This is the core of the sacred time of fasting. I offer that not many of us bring the sacred into each mundane moment of life, and yet this is what we are called to do. Together, we nourish the soul, the heart, the spark within. Our lives are sacred and beautiful, just as our connection is to whatever it is we hold holy and divine. So may we be led by this beauty. May we be led by faith, by compassion and love, by all that we cultivate in prayer and meditation. May we be led each day by all we hold divine and sacred and holy. May it be so, and amen. Please rise in body or spirit to join our voices in hymn number 1020 in our teal hymnal, Wo Ya Ya. May we leave this blessed space transformed, called towards spiritual nourishments as we abandon the mundane of only for a moment. May we leave this holy space with the divine held tenderly in our hearts and souls and very bodies, guiding us towards a deeper faith, a more compassionate heart, a nurtured soul. And may we cultivate these blessings with sacred and holy intention, moment to moment, day to day. Go in peace, and amen.